Thanks so much for joining us. It's another Superwoman Wednesday. And I have a guest with me today that I know I was super geeked about having Haley Gray, but I'm super geeked about having Tomika Bryant with me. And I'm gonna tell y'all why. Like, I am such a fan of Tomika. When I tell you, like, Superwoman is engraved on her chest. Okay. Like, seriously, she can't even take off her cape because, like, this woman kicked cancer's ass. Okay. But she's been doing stuff to help people for as long as I can remember. I remember back in like 2011, she started doing something for marriage couples, this retreat for couples. And I was just like, I'm not married, but here, I'm going to sponsor a couple because I believe in love, especially Black love.
Black love.
I want your event, I want whatever you're doing to be prosperous and successful. And that's really what it's about, Superwoman. Like, we can't just always use our words to encourage someone. Sometimes we gotta put our money where our mouth is, right? And I did that because, again, I'm a fan of Tomika. So I'm going to stop talking and I want to say hi, Tomika.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me. And that introduction was wonderful. I love it.
Yes. But the wonderful thing is it was just also true. And that's what I love about Superwoman Wednesday because it's so authentic and from the heart. We don't get a chance to rehearse it. It's a flow. And me wanting to spotlight women that I absolutely believe are kick ass out here, it's such an honor to be able to do it. Like, right. And so when I say those words, nothing about it is fluff, although they may be flattering. Nothing about it is fluff or fake. Okay. So my first question for you, Tomika, is not what do you do, not what are you about. Tell me, who are you? When you show up to the world, who is Tomika Bryant?
I like to believe that I am passionate, definitely a caregiver, and I like to believe that I'm a leader.
Yes, that is facts, folks. But now that we know who you are, I want to know what makes you, would you say, a superwoman?
That's a lot. Now that's a whole mouthful.
Right.
I feel like I have so many different arms, beside being a wife to my husband of 18 years, I believe at this point. I have two teenagers, so being a parent always keeps you busy.
You Kirk Franklin them kids.
Listen, I was not mad at him. I was like, people need to mind their business. First of all, he's grown. Don't even get me started. Listen, that son deserved what he got. Listen, whatever. But then, I'm a member of so many organizations, my sorority, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, of course. Then I'm a member of Jack and Jill. I'm a member of so many breast cancer organizations, social media organizations, and all of that. Then I have my friendships. So I kind of feel like I have so many different arms, and it's just a matter of which arm I'm extending at the time and what I'm doing. I do try to maintain some sense of balance, which isn't always easy. But that's kind of like how I do what I do. I take it day by day.
That's real talk, because what seems to be a common theme in my conversations is being a superwoman versus superwoman syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And what some of you don't know about Tomika yet, because we're getting into her story, is Tomika is a cancer survivor. Oh, y'all know it because I just said it. Oh my gosh. Anyway, how weak I am. I'm forgetting the things that I said. But anyway, to being a cancer survivor, like, life dealt you that, right?
Yeah.
And again, life comes to kick your ass and you have no choice but to fight back.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you did, right? That's being a superwoman. When you just don't lay down in the face of the adversity, you have to fight back. Now, the superwoman syndrome is just like, oh, I gotta be this and I gotta be that, and I gotta show them I'm this and I gotta prove to them that I'm that. That's ego, right?
Yes,
it's completely different, completely different. But when you've got that heart to help and to serve, that's not coming from an egoic space, right?
Right.
But speaking of cancer
Yes, ma'am.
and adversity, let's talk about your story. Like, I could only imagine what that role was like for you.
Yes.
What did you do mentally and emotionally to help you press through it all?
So, unfortunately, there is no manual, and most of your doctors are not talking to you about just the mental effects that come from a cancer diagnosis. You know, hearing those three words, "you have cancer," is life changing. I mean, like you have a lot of decisions that you need to make in that moment, and
Mhm.
oftentimes we don't get the chance to really stop and think about what it is, because depending on where you are in stages, you got to get in motion, because cancer does not
Mhm.
wait for you to make a decision. So
At
hearing
all.
it was really devastating. I remember they called me. I was actually in the process of reading a story with my daughter at the time. And so she would have been 6, I guess, 7.
Mhm.
Um, and we were in the process of reading a story. My husband was sitting on the floor, she was sitting on the floor, and they were in front of me, and the phone rang. And I looked at the phone, and I knew even before she told me, but it was the manner in which she told me that was not okay. And so as she answered and she's talking to me, and I said, "I need to call you back." And so
Mm.
I hung up and I went outside, and then I called her back, and, we spoke about it. And, she told me about the diagnoses and kind of told me what I needed to be doing. I paused and I said, "You didn't even ask me, was I driving? Was I alone? Like,
Mm.
what was my environment? You don't know me personally, so you don't know how I was going to receive that." Like,
Right.
that could have been the needle that just threw me over the edge. Like, I could have walked out into the middle of the street and killed myself. Like, you don't know kind of what could have happened. So luckily, from that conversation and some things that I did at that particular facility, they now no longer will call you and say it in that manner. They kind of have it in their forms where they say, "How would you like for us to follow up with you?" Because it's
Nice.
important. So for me, I think, because even though she had told it to me and I was kind of like, "You got to be kidding me." And I knew, like I said, I had that feeling before I answered the phone. I was already in that mode of, I can't let another person get this phone call like this. Like, this is not okay. Like, not okay. Like, I could have been driving. Like, so many things could have been happening. And so, I think that from that moment on is really what propelled me to be like, okay, I got to fight this, because I need to be an example. I need to share my journey. I need to make sure that Black women know that we are getting cancer at alarming rates, and many of us are dying while our counterparts are kind of going on and doing what they need to do. So I need to make sure that I bring light to this. And that's kind of been my mission since.
Girl, everything you said was like, see, I told y'all. That caregiver, like, is what you said. Like, immediately you weren't just thinking of you were thinking of not how this impacted you, but how it would also impact others.
Yes.
And then that advocacy, like, you rose up to action. Like, this is not how you handle people.
Yes,
This
exactly.
is especially people who are, you're delivering this type of devastating, mind-blowing news to. Get it together, right? I love it. I love
Yes.
it. And something else that you said that's so key is cancer doesn't wait for anyone.
Nope.
Because because you had cancer, my dad had cancer, and my
Mhm.
dad passed from cancer. And unlike you, he decided not to fight. And
Okay.
so, yeah, that was his choice. And it was
Absolutely. Yeah.
hard. It was very, very difficult for me to accept his choice. But he was also a diabetic, and he had this hole in his ankle that wouldn't close because of the diabetes.
Mhm.
And so they were saying, for he was already at stage 4, and
Mhm.
they were offering him the chemo. And because at first I asked him, "Do you want to fight this?" And he said yes.
Okay.
And I was just like, "Okay, well, I'm with you. Like, I will be there with you every step of the way." But then when they told him what was required, he said, "I'm gonna catch y'all on the other side because they ain't cutting nothing off of me, right?" And so it didn't wait for him. It didn't wait. It was swift.
Mhm.
It was swift. And so that's really true. And I appreciate your advocacy, especially in letting women know, particularly Black women know, because even though my heart and my servitude is to women. Like, it's not only Black women because I'm Black, it's all women. But what we do, facts are facts and truth is truth. And what we do know is that Black women are disproportionately mishandled when it comes to medical issues. We know that. That's data. We've got data on that, right?
The numbers
and
don't
so
lie.
the numbers don't lie, just like in business, just like with social media. Well, no, social media numbers lie. But this is a perfect segue into this, the advocacy that you're taking place in, and that you're a part of for cancer. Tell me about that.
So, like I said, patient advocacy is a huge part of my life. And just as a result of all the events that I've gone to and some of the panels and talks that I participated in, a group of us got together, and they're not just breast cancer patients. There's one is colorectal. We have an ovarian cancer. So we kind of go across the spectrum, and a group of Black women who are patient advocates as well, we kind of got together and we realized that the only way that we could put an end and kind of raise the bar and give us some equity in this game is that we come together and use our voices and everything, that all our resources, to make a difference. And that's literally what we're doing. Yes, last night on, what was yesterday? Thursday. Totally losing my days here. On Thursday, we actually hosted, I do a tea talk on Facebook and YouTube, and we hosted it on Thursday. And the conversation was, what did I wish my doctor had told me? And what it was because oftentimes we go into these offices and our doctors immediately have a bias, before we even open our mouth. And they make these assumptions on us based on things that they've seen in the media, what they think they know about Black women. And because of that bias, we don't get the full 100% care we should get. And I shared in an example how I went to my primary doctor, and this isn't just even an oncologist. I went to my primary doctor. I had a new one, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go in here different. I'm not going to go in here with my list. I'm going to see what she thinks I need to be doing based on my age. And, she knew I had breast cancer. So my appointment lasted all of 15 minutes initially. And it was like, she did nothing. She talked to me. It was a conversation, but she really did not say, at this age, these are the things that are happening. We know that Black women are experiencing this at this age. Have you seen any of that? And so, I waited, I let her get to the end. And then she says, well, I guess we're done. Do you have any questions? I said, I do. And so I ran it off. And so the look in her face was kind of like, what just happened? And then, as I said what I needed to say, I said, I should let you know that I am a patient advocate. I said, and I came in here really hoping that you were going to just knock my socks off. I said, and I don't want to say I blame you because you didn't, but I realized that this is how you've been trained. And because there is no bias training, you have to bring your personal experiences to it. I said, and what I hope from this visit is the next Black woman you encounter her differently. And so that's the type of things that we're trying to just educate and let women know what our rights are. Because oftentimes women just don't understand. Like, we think, oh, if the doctor says this, it has to be that. No, it doesn't. Because doctors are usually reactive and not proactive. You've got to go into that office being proactive.
Wow. All races don't have to go in being proactive. And it's just sad, but it is the reality. And thank God that there's people like you who are out here, people like the others in your organization who are raising their voices, because that was so bold and badass. I love it, because it's just like we all have to use our voices, our platforms to speak to power, right?
Absolutely.
And be bold and courageous enough to do it. Be comfortable enough to do it. And it doesn't mean that we have to be aggressive and nasty, those kind of things or whatever, but it's just kind of like the energy, whatever that energy is that's required to get it done, then you got to manifest that type of energy. Absolutely. Like, because listen, I know when Jesus was checking the hell out of them Pharisees, he wasn't like, oh, you Pharisees, I don't understand you. He was like, you vipers, you snakes. I don't know who this flowery Jesus is, but whatever. But I want to circle back a little bit, because I was thinking while you were talking, you said that you were taken aback by the way that the doctor presented the news to you. Let's go into that story just a little bit more, because I know that there are women who are like, how did she handle it? Like, that was a lot. Her being a mom, her being a wife, like, what happened? So talk to us.
So I think that, and people always say I'm a little strange, because I kind of have this attitude of, I believe in God. I believe that he gives you things for a reason. I believe in purpose. And I kind of was like, okay, well, I have this. It's happening to me for a reason. And especially because the type that I have, which is triple negative, is not necessarily genetic related. And so they don't really know why women are getting it. They know that Black young women are getting it at alarming rates, and it's extremely aggressive, but they can't really pinpoint why. And because of that, I think, a lot of people were like, well, why did you get it? They're looking for answers. And I still have conversations with people where they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't eat sugar. And I'm like, well, I know 3 people who are vegans who don't eat any of that. They grew their own food and they got it. So now what? And so I'm like, we got to stop trying to find the reason why and look for the purpose in it. And so I think that dealing with it, that was my thing. It was like, okay, you're telling me I got this. What we gonna do? We gotta get rid of this because I still got shit to do. And that's really the mindset I was. Like, listen, I got a daughter to raise, I got a son to raise, I got a husband I gotta take care of, I got life to be happening. I was building a business. I had so much that was going on. And I was like, this here is a bip in the road, and we're gonna handle this little journey here, but it's just gonna come along with what we're doing, and it's not gonna stop me. And so that's really the mindset that I was. And there were a lot of people, even my sister, who had reached out to my mom and was kind of like, is she serious? Because why isn't she like crying? Like, what's going on? And I had to like say to her, I had that day that, I heard it and it was all real, all the appointments. And I broke down, I cried for about 5 minutes and I was like, okay, I'm done. Let's get this. I said, I can't sit around and wait on it. Cancer does not wait. I've got to do what I got to do.
Girl, hold on me. So y'all see what I'm saying? Do y'all understand why I'm a fan? Listen, I am a fan because the thing that you said, Tomika, that is the absolute undisputable truth. The mindset, because even if you cry as you're going through, nobody's saying that you can't cry.
Absolutely.
Nobody's saying that you can't feel what you feel. But you've got to make a decision. Yep. That's your mindset. Are you got to decide at the onset, am I going to overcome this or is this going to overcome me? Yep. And that's what I'm always trying to impress upon Superwomen. And the interesting thing is, when my toughness, my hardness, or whatever, people, when it's not towards them and it's for them, or on their behalf, they're like, get their ass, Ray, but when it's towards them, they're like, no, you need to change. No, I don't. Because listen, just like you, that's how I've overcome every adversity that has come my way, right? Every adversity that has come my way, even like with tears in my eyes, I will be going, because it's just like, listen, I'm raising my daughter. I'm doing it by myself. And like, I've got family looking to me. I've got family that I'm supporting, and I'm got family that I am an example for. I'm family that I'm trailblazing for, friends that I'm trailblazing for, other women that I'm trailblazing for. I can't afford to just lay here and die. Like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I have to make that decision every day. We all have to make that decision every day. And it's just like, and not to minimize cancer, not to minimize it, but it's just like, if it's not cancer for the next person, it's a divorce. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's traumatic. But yeah, so let's talk about your show. What's going on with your show?
So what happened is, I like to talk, and I believe that somewhere in my lifeline there will be like some kind of talk show happening. And so what I started doing was on Thursdays, normally at around noon, I do a commentary and I do it live through Facebook and YouTube. And what ended up happening is oftentimes, like, I like to watch TV shows and I would talk about that. And then it became me talking about current events, what's happening in the news. And then ultimately it really became very similar to what you're doing here. I would invite people onto the show with me and we would talk about whatever the issues are. And oftentimes I do them now at night just because of the time difference. And, people are back to work. It was a lot easier to do it at noon when everybody was home, but now people are back to work. And so I generally do in the evening, and the topics change, like it could be women, it could be men. I mean, I've done the gamut. I've done a lot of mental health discussions because I felt like while we were in the midst of COVID, a lot of people were having a lot of emotions, being alone and trying to really navigate it. So I did a lot of that on that. We talked a lot about self-care because I am big on self-care. You got to take care of you before you take care of others. So it's been great. I enjoy it. I mean, it is a fun project for me. And I love when I have the opportunity to really bring on guests who can educate and, help people break down whatever it is they're experiencing.
Word. So before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask, you talked about mental health and self-care, which is something that I'm always speaking to the Superwoman about, prioritizing self, right? That how unselfish it really is. How it is an act of service. It really is an act of service when we take care of ourselves first. But anyway, the mental health part, facing adversity, like your mental toughness, like how did you develop that, or where does it come from for you?
So I think the first part is really just recognizing that self-care can be anything. It does not always require leaving the house, going to the spa, spending money. It can literally be you getting in your closet, closing the door and just sitting there meditating or taking a nap or whatever. So I think that women, we have to recognize that it does not have to be elaborate. I mean, granted, I love elaborate. I'm all about a spa and a good trip, but I recognize that oftentimes that's just not possible. And COVID taught us that. Being in the midst of a pandemic, it taught us that. Like, people were recognizing and learning about themselves and the people they live with, realizing that, sometimes I need a break. And I tell people all the time, it's okay to need a break. You're human. It's okay. But you have to realize and start to know the signs. So for me, I know one of my things of self-care is I take a nap. Like if I feel like my body is like, girl, you need to rest, I'm going to rest. And that's how I honor myself. And I tell people, look for your triggers. Like I know if my body tells me I need a nap and I don't take it, I'm not a nice person. And my body is responding to that. Like, yup, anything somebody says to me, I'm jumping at. I'm like, what? Leave me alone. And I know that about me. So I make it a point, even if I don't go to sleep, I will lay down. I will watch TV. I'll listen to some music or whatever. Like you've got to figure out what your triggers are to put you to that point where you're like, you know what, let me start listening. Because ultimately what ends up happening is you suffer. Your body is going to respond. Like you think you can keep going and going and going and going, and you think that you're being successful, and you're really not. Because what's going to end up happening is your body is giving you all the signs. Take a break. And we don't listen to them. And then what ends up happening is something shuts us down because your body's like, well, I tried to tell you, you're not going to listen. Here's what I'm going to do. And so we have to start honoring ourselves. It's the biggest part of self-care there is.
Real talk. Someone asked me to be on their podcast, and I was talking about that last night. I literally was saying, it was like, listen, when it's time to shut down, do it. Because if you don't shut yourself down, life will knock your ass down and you're not going to like it because it comes unexpected, and it comes in a way that you do not like because you have no control over it. Control. But if you take control of your life and your situation and do the necessary things and just shut down, block out some time. I was telling women, because you said get in the closet, right? I was just like, listen, you can't escape your kids. When you got to go to the supermarket, go 15 minutes early so you can just sit in the car by yourself. I mean, it's simple as that, but it's just like, stop telling yourself, because it's a conditioning.
Yes.
You're telling yourself that they are more important than you, that is more important than you, that your man is more important than you, your job, your employees, your clients, they're more important than you. And they're not.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not. That's why you're there, because you serve a purpose, right? So if you're going to be in service to them, serve you first. So this was great. I absolutely enjoyed this. I would like, oh my gosh, like you see, I've been cheesing like the whole time because I'm just so such a huge fan of what you're doing. But actually, I wanted to ask one last thing before we go. Are you still doing anything like with couples, that type of thing, or?
So ironically, so many people had asked me about Black Marriage Day, the Black Marriage Retreat, because like you said, it was really great. So what we're doing is, because Black couples, we don't often have the opportunity to get together. We just don't make it a priority. And realistically, it is good for your marriage to have Black couples, to go out with couples in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be Black, we're just talking about Black couples, but it's just good to have friends like that, because when you're going through something and maybe you don't want to talk to your spouse, it's very good to have someone else who's married that you can talk to, because they're going to give you a different perspective than a single person would. And so what we're actually doing, because so many people have been asking us to bring back the retreat, like I got so many messages. The plan was to have done it last year, but COVID happened. Right. So with the Black Marriage Squad, and we've been inviting couples to literally come in and just conversate with us. We're going to talk about love, the importance of it, kind of just a little bit of everything. And our goal is to do that once a week, with the hopes that next year we will be able to do something face to face.
I freaking love it. And I'm going to sponsor somebody again, right? Because here's the deal. That's kind of like the crux of what I do. Like I'm talking to women about their relationships. But unfortunately, when I say relationship, a lot of times they default to relationship with a man. But this is like, no, you got relationships with your man, your money, your mini-me. Most importantly, you got a relationship with you. Yes. Like most of them are unhealthy.
Yes.
And I think that so many are unhealthy because there's become so much competition in relationships opposed to loving each other. And so, a lot of women, and interestingly, I'm single, but I do talk to and work with a lot of married women. And of course, I don't go beyond my lane. Like I'm always outsourcing and pointing people to the right people. But one of the things that I'm always saying to them is loving somebody and knowing how to love somebody are two different things. And that's why loving is not enough. Like we have to develop that skill. We have to develop relationship skills. There was this one young lady that I told, listen, you need a relationship coach, and it can't be me because you're not going to listen to me, but you need a relationship coach because you have to develop the skill set to be a girlfriend and a wife. You don't know how to do that. You're a great person. You've got a great heart. You're beautiful. And you know what I'm saying? And you don't have a problem with attracting men, but you do have a problem with keeping them. And that's why, because you don't know how to relate with them. And so I'm excited about that. Please keep me in the loop because as much as I possibly can, I will be letting people know, hey, go check this out. Y'all want to be a part of this, get the tea, as you would say, and definitely encouraging people to check out. What is the name of it?
Tea Talk Thursday.
Okay, Tea Talk Thursday. So speaking of which, where can we find you on social media?
So you can find me on Instagram at Tomika Talks. That's Tomika Talks. You can find me at YouTube at Tomika Talks. You can find me at Facebook and Twitter at Life and Pumps.
Okay, awesome. I actually got to work on getting my YouTube subscribers up because I can't do the customized name on my own YouTube yet.
What is it? I think 1,000. So here's the thing. I don't have a lot of subscribers on YouTube either because I really don't focus on it. I focused enough to get to 1,000 and I kind of let it wean. But where I am right now is I'm really working on my social media plan because I need to kind of increase the numbers everywhere. Like my blog, I get a lot of good hits on my blog. But like Facebook, I don't spend a lot of time on there. I'm on there, I'm chatting on my personal page and then I'm off. So I'm really just trying to build the numbers so that across the board, they're going to be kind of evenly. If you look, you'll know that Instagram is high because that's where I spend a lot of my time. But I feel like just across the board, I'm a little bit of everywhere. So I'm just trying to make certain that, I'm hitting where I need to hit.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's kind of same for me with YouTube. I'm over that long ass link, and so it's motivating me to go get some subscribers, right? Because I was like, I hate this link. But listen, ladies, go and connect with Tomika. Seriously, she is a force. If y'all think I'm something, and she's younger than me. Like listen, she gonna be doing this much longer than me, okay? Because she got a little bit more time than I do. And as you know, she's just not letting death walk up on her and say, okay, let's go. She be like, yeah, no, go on about your business,
Not
right?
time. I'm ready. I'm
But
not
get
ready.
with her. I'm not ready. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's a whole message in itself. You gotta tell your situations like, yeah, I'm not ready. Go away. Go away.
Okay.
But
Not
listen,
today.
I want y'all to follow her. Follow her on Instagram. Check out her page. Check out her shows, YouTube, Facebook, everything. Because listen, she's got good information and she's so connected. And she's always trying to get people to the right resources. And she's caring, just like she said at the onset. She's just caring. So, Superwoman, thanks so much for joining us again for another Superwoman Wednesday. Come back next week. We're going to have some awesome woman from somewhere around the world come and share her story of strength that will encourage you and inspire you. Bye, Superwoman.